And we back at it again, but back to my question. Well, it was a very personal question, and I just have to ask, where can I get these pants?
Well,
I love these pants.
I'm glad you asked. Now, for a lot of people that don't know, I have my own clothing line.
Wow.
Okay, so to get these pants, you have to come through me, and it's at www.therealarthurrowland.com, and just click on the merchandise, go right down to the bottom, and it'll pull up.
So, what's poppin'? It's your girl, Rica Nadine, aka Nae Nae. People. And honey, I'm just in a good mood lately. Like, when you put God first, like as the head of your life, and then you work out and you get yourself together, it just feels different. Like your skin start acting different, your body start acting like it's a good feeling. But anyway, that's besides the point. So, on this special episode, last week we had Mr. Viral Sensation himself, Miles Minnick, in the house. But today we have his lovely wife, which I'm super excited to have a sit down, a chit chat with her to get to know, rappers, CHH artists. We never get the, the wife or the behind the scenes of, the whole process. So this was most definitely exclusive, and I'm glad you are here. So none other, we have Miss Tina Minnick. Oh,
hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I want to get the tea. So I want to start way when you're. No, I'm kidding. I want to know about your childhood.
Oh, how much time you have?
Okay. We got all the time.
Okay, I'll just summarize it. I was actually adopted. So I went through foster care because both my parents were drug addicts. My mother was actually schizophrenic as well. And living with them as a child, I was actually homeless. So obviously, you can't do that as a parent. So I got put into the system. And around 6 years old, I went to my now mother, and I've been with my mom since 6, and it was an open adoption, so I still have relationship with my biological family, but that is the basis of my upbringing in a nutshell.
So I know you're young. Let me mention that you're young. Your husband's young. So did you guys? There's so many questions I want to ask you about you and your husband's relationship, but y'all need to stay tuned because we're gonna have both of them on our relationship. You need to stay tuned for that. But I do want to touch on this. So because you guys are both young, did you guys meet in school?
So it's funny, we went to the same high school, never spoke in high school. My husband actually ended up having a child in high school, and his baby mother myself and him all went to the same high school. So obviously everyone knows who the pregnant girl is in high school. What I didn't know at the time was that she'd be carrying my baby.
Right.
And my husband and I met the summer I graduated. So my sophomore year, I transferred schools and didn't go to school with him anymore. And then we ended up meeting after the fact. So, yeah.
Okay, let me go back to I'm all over the place, but you're so, I mean, you did summarize it. I watched a few of your videos. I did my tea. I did my research.
For
So I watched
sure.
a few of your videos of you on YouTube with your church and, everything like that. So I did hear a little bit of your testimony. But what intrigues me is that you were so young and a family that adoption is so intriguing to me. Let me say that first. Somebody who doesn't know you takes you into their home and takes care, like that's so, because you're young, I'm pretty sure like as time went on, but you said it was open. So did you have any emotional how do I put this? Did you have any emotional problems like dealing with adoption?
I think dealing with all of it. I definitely had a very rough middle school and high school career, so to say. You deal with those feelings of abandonment. And so even though I was adopted, I was still adopted by a single parent. And so I still, either way, I didn't know what it was like to have a father. And then you always have those feelings like, why am I not good enough? Like, why me? Not only was I adopted, but I dealt with like sexual abuse as a child too.
Wow.
So not understanding that, you're not just supposed to give up your body. So like I started having sex at a very young age. And it was just normal. Like, this is just what you do. At least that's what I thought. And so I dealt with a lot of that trauma with my decision making in middle school and high school. And it's funny because when my husband and I started dating, because I had been in so many relationships, it was someone that who I knew, and he ended up telling my husband like, "Oh, don't mess with her. She gets bored easily." Real easy. But what that person didn't know is that I was going through my healing phase though. And so I dealt with a lot of that. It really affected my decisions. But I think that I was able to heal from it very young. I ended up getting saved when I was 17 because at that time I had already lived my life. Like I had already made my stupid decisions. Right. So at 17, I was like, okay, this is enough for me. Right. Like this ain't working. Something's not right.
So can you describe to us your when can you describe to us your come to Jesus moment? Like when you just, you felt him in your body. Everyone has a different experience in that.
Yeah. So at the time I was a senior in high school, a guy that was a really good friend of mine who I had a crush on forever. He was my boyfriend at the time. And we started going through a very tough time of him cheating on me, getting a girl pregnant. Like it was crazy. Lies, deception, all of it. And when I was getting ready to walk out, he was like, just come to church with me. Like that was his way to try and reconcile and try to get me to stay. And I was like, let me try. Like, let me see. And I'm adopted into an African-American family. So I only grew up in African-American church. So I remember walking into this church service and it's this white pastor preaching. And I remember being like, okay, like,
right.
Like I immediately had a wall up because it's like, this is not what I'm used to. This is not what I've seen growing up. But I sat down late to church service. And when I tell you the message just hit me, like I felt like he was speaking exactly to me. And when they did the altar call and I raised my hand and I just felt so much peace lifted off of me. And then I just started to be really consistent at that time. And like I started getting into church head on. Like I was there every week, several times a week. But God used that very dark time to bring me closer to him.
I know what you mean about the churches, honey. You went from a hoop and hollering church to a quiet And I don't even know why he's so quiet. I don't understand. But it's
I'm
like
he's just talking.
it's like going from a TD Jakes church to a Stephen Furtick church. And it's like I've been to churches like that, and I did see the difference, and I'm just like, this may not be for me. But of course, I'm glad you had a good experience, because a lot of people, their first time, they feel like people are judging them, and a lot of people, they're really mentally torturing themselves. So I'm glad that you had a good experience.
For sure. Well, what this pastor would say too is like a lot of people feel like they need to get themselves together before coming to Christ, but it's like, no, you come to Christ and he helps you get yourself together. Like, you don't have to come perfect, like come as you are. And I remember that just being so peaceful and relieving to me. It was like, okay, I'm a hot mess, like, and I'm just bringing my hot mess, like, get ready.
So as a little girl, when you were growing up, what is that career that you told like everybody, like, oh, I'm gonna be this when I grow up, I'm gonna be this when I grow up?
An astronaut.
Wow.
An astronaut. I just remember sitting on my aunt's staircase in her apartments, and all the kids, the uncle at the time was asking like, well, what do you want to be? And I remember everyone, I'm going to be a dancer, I want to be a singer. And then he got to me and I was like, I want to be an astronaut. And I remember just, oh my God. Wow. And then he got to me and I was like, I want to be an astronaut. And I remember just feeling so weird, because I was like, I don't want to be any of these things. That's what I want to be. That changed to where I wanted to be a lawyer, then become a judge. That changed to me wanting to do social work. But I like what I do now.
So I'm glad we got into this. So because everyone sees, your husband in the forefront, they never see, what's done behind the scenes, the process of behind the scenes, which it makes the people in the front, to be honest. Yeah. But that's besides the point. So what all do you do for your husband and his ministry?
I mean, I've been with him pretty much through it all. I was 17, he was 18 when we met. So like, we pretty much grew up together. The beginning of his career, he's been rapping since 15, but as far as like doing it professionally, the last several years, just full time. And I've been there through that, through pastoring, through all of that. But I do all the behind the scenes. I don't necessarily care to be in front of the camera. But if you give me a calendar and a calculator, as my husband says, I'll make it happen. So when you are doing music, especially as an indie artist, like, you're doing everything from the ground up. You have no label. You have, no manager. Like, I've just kind of been that manager. So I'm the one doing the bookings and the contracts and just everything, whatever needs to be done, merchandise, our daughter's in the house, folding merchandise with us, prepping it, like selling it at shows, literally whatever the task is, we come together and do it together. So
I'm glad this was later down my list, but I'm glad you touched on that. So how, because you're a mother, you're a wife, you're a manager, you're whatever he needs at the time, how do you manage that? And then you have a newborn. So how do you manage, going to his shows and, supporting him, but also being a mother?
I have no idea. No. I would say a lot of it has been God's grace. And a lot of it has been understanding what season I'm in. So some seasons is, I got you, I'm on the road with you, like, this is what we're doing, this is what we can bring kids to. A lot of it is, go do your thing and I will be a phone call away, call me if you need me. And so just understanding that we had a 4-year-old and a 11-year-old before the baby. So it was like, we finally got into the swing of things where we had a little bit more freedom to do, what we needed to do. But now we have a newborn, like, we're not just able to do everything anymore. And so just understanding those seasons. I do work a 9-to-5 again. I've been on maternity leave, so I just went back. So understanding that, okay, we're in a new season. How do we navigate this? What am I taking on? What are you taking on? And so just understanding that moment and just being very communicative. Miles and I have weekly meetings. So it's, you know, this is what we do. This is what we're not going to do. We can commit to this. We can't commit to that. And a lot of people ask too, like, oh, your wife is okay with you traveling and doing all this? Like, my wife would not be cool with it. And it's like, I don't have a problem with it. Like, my husband's never given me a reason to have a problem with it. You know, my thing is, as long as you're taking care of home, like, I don't care. You know, you're going to be out 2 days on the road. You need to be at home 2 days, you know, pouring into your family. So just that balance.
Right. I'm actually glad that you talked about this, because a lot of, you know, young girls are like, oh, I want to marry a rapper. I want to marry a rapper. But they don't. Oh, I'm going to go on the road with him. Oh, we're going to do all this traveling. I'm going to have his 6 kids. Like, they have all these goals. They have all these goals. And no one really gives them the real deal about what actually goes on, you know, when you're on the road, when you have the kids and want to go on the road. Also adding a job on, like, I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because it doesn't get talked about enough. And I think a lot of these young girls won't grow up be like, oh, I want to date a rapper. I want to be able to basketball star. Like, it'll be more realistic.
Yeah. There's a lot that.
No, you can go. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're right. There is a lot that comes with it. And we've now, like, we got into a rhythm as like one-off shows, but now he's touring. And so that's a whole new ball game where you're gone a couple weeks at a time. So how do we navigate that? You know, and it's definitely difficult. And even looking at his tour that's coming up, and I'm like, okay, well, you come back home at this time and someone wants to book you a week later. You haven't been home enough. You know, you wouldn't have spent enough time with myself and the kids. So no, we're going to decline that booking, because it's more important for you to pour into your children and, you know, for us to pour into our marriage than it is for you to just be on the road, because it's a sacrifice. I sacrifice, my kids sacrifice, Miles sacrifices. It's not easy, but we try and make the best of it. So yeah.
I get it. I mean, I'm not lucky enough to be married to a rapper, but but I get the grind for sure. My next question is, I literally had it on the tip of my tongue. I'm literally going through, and I never really have questions because I was so nervous, because I'm like, okay, don't ask her this because I can use this for the show. Don't do this because I can use it for the next show. And I was like, girl, I was all over the place.
You're fine.
Okay, if you could tell your younger self one thing that you have learned throughout the years, what would it be?
That is good. It depends on what younger self I'm talking to. I mean, if I could have told myself at a younger age to, you know, get with God and to love myself, so that I didn't have to go through a lot of the turmoil, I would. And I think early on in our marriage, just understanding who I am and being okay with that, you know, because you do, having a husband who's in the spotlight, it kind of makes you feel like maybe you're not good enough, or maybe, you know, like your gifts and your talents can be drowned out. And so I've come to learn, like, no, I bring a lot to the table, just not everyone sees it. And so just being comfortable and okay with that, because you can feel like you're not doing enough, you know. It's like, no, I'm doing great. It's just not everyone sees it.
Right. I'm glad you touched on that too, because girl, because okay, so my family, we're all in media. Crazy thing about it. So sometimes, and it's so funny because we all kind of do the same thing, but in different genres of music. Like, I have the CHH, I have the Afro beats, I have that area. My brother has the gospel. We have different, you know, different genres. So we'll get booked, and okay, say there's an event like Stellar just coming up. So a sanctioned event, we'll have, you know, this one event. I won't get booked. My mom won't get booked. My sisters won't get booked, but my brother gets booked. And we're like, if we're all doing the same thing, but then we have to realize, like, okay, we have to humble ourselves and be like, this is not even for us. Like, we're not doing this to be superstars. We're not doing this to be famous. We're doing this for God at the end of the day. And, you know, the things that, like I said, the things that go on behind the scenes, nobody sees that. Nobody sees that you're up at 4 a.m. and got to get up at 6. Nobody sees that. And even when you post about it, it's like oh, not really. Like they don't really understand.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Even with Miles, it took him many years, of those grind time where people didn't see it, and we've just learned to be consistent in it. A lot of times, I'm not gonna lie. At some point, I was kind of like, are you sure about this music thing?
Right.
Like, we've been doing this a minute,
Right.
but you keep going, and something will happen. We've come to learn that just be consistent. So you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. So, like I said, I was being nosy, like I always am. I was going through your Instagram and, seeing the videos you guys got out and stuff like that. For one, I just want to say you guys are now my favorite Christian couple, period.
Thank
I just
you.
want to say that you guys are so adorable. I love how I watched the one video about interracial relationship,
Mhm.
and you were like, "How do you feel about being with a white girl?" And he was like, it's like he didn't even think it's like white. And then he was like, I really didn't care. God sent you into my life. I didn't care what color you were. Like it didn't matter. And I literally love that. Like I said, y'all my faves.
Thank you. What you didn't hear is that before me, Miles thought that he was gonna have a girl with blue braids named Keisha, but God sent me. But it's funny because I turned on the camera and we just started talking. Like these are our conversations, and you never know who will be blessed by it. So we just put it out there, just like, hey, whatever you think, whatever people think, it is what it is. But I'm glad like that it can bless people. We have couples that we see online, and it's like I love them, I love what they do. So it's like I just want to use my page because I feel like a lot of people don't see marriage, they don't see family. It's not really something that's widely broadcasted anymore in a positive light. And so it's just like, I know what it's like to not have a healthy family, and I want the world to see that it's possible. So thank you. That makes me feel good.
No problem. Especially with Hot Girl Summer. They're like girls getting out of relationships to do Hot Girl Summer. But that's besides